My boy in Christ, if you do not ask her for a date now, you are helpless. Come on, you got that senior hitting on you. Don't make me disappointed, my boy. I don't even care if she turns out to be the worst villain known to man. No pain, no gain. Come on. Make us proud. He ain't gonna make us proud, let's be honest. I'm not gonna lie, I initially read that scene, the subtitles, as the crawler. Didn't realize she said the crueler. I was initially proud of my boy. I was like, you know, you may be fumbling the girl who clearly likes you, and even if she's just using you to get to the crawler, have some fun along the way, my boy. And then I thought he pulled off the ultimate lie. I was like, damn, look at how cool he was. No, they just turned the joke of everyone not knowing his actual name, and somehow that just saved his ass from the detectives and the detective's sister. And honestly, I'm kind of impressed in a way. This man's so, like, I bet if he started calling himself like the crueler, everyone would start calling him the crawler. A little reverse psychology there. But he fumbled, bro. Like, he has Pop Step, who's like thirsting all over him, and clearly he wants nothing to do with that. I mean, questionably society does. I mean, that her ass was half of the conversation, and given I've seen people unironically outraged that her ass wasn't more fan service oriented like in the manga, society. And then you have Best Girl introduce herself, age appropriate. It looks like she's the senpai, the older college romance option. And then she even dresses mature during that whole, like, interview thing. And I'm like, my boy, I'm expecting either she gonna turn out to be a villain or she gonna try to screw us over in some way. But it doesn't matter. In the meantime, have some goddamn fun. He fumbled Best Girl. Now, granted, we might still have possibilities. Will he go for it? Probably not. But I gotta admit, her ability is actually pretty cool. She, like, I'm a big sucker for when my hero powers are kind of like super practical rather than super flashy. So, a character like in Todoroki, right? You know, fire and ice, or Deku's super strength. Like, yeah. But the idea of, like, if you were to work in any sort of interview situation, whether police, detectives, or whatever, the idea of a human lie detector is pretty awesome, I gotta admit. And it's so simple, but you can see how valuable it would be for certain jobs. Obviously, certain people get stuck with the ability to dribble the soccer ball real well, which I guess would be great if you wanted to be a professional player. But I have to imagine that would be the equivalent of using drugs, and he'd be banned from playing sports with non-superhuman people, so I don't know. Either way, very fun. But yeah, this episode kind of changes everything. They turn a simple joke into a plot-relevant shield. You could almost say his plot armor here saved him. Now, did he ever want to be known as the crueler? No. But the fact that everyone just doesn't know his actual name just saved his ass. Because when asked, bitch, I'm the crawler, right? Now, I'm surprised his dumbass didn't blurt that out. Like, no, I'm the crawler. You know, because he'd be so proud of it. But, yeah, like, is it smart necessarily to want to date the person who's, doing detective stuff? And the more we'll learn, and eventually he'll realize that she's the sister of the brother who's investigating the vigilantes and stuff. Yeah, probably not the best idea, but, she's attractive and she's age appropriate, and yeah, he should make a move. He should absolutely make a move. Though I did absolutely adore seeing Pop Step just so gremlined out of her mind. So, we know that Knuckle and her are always, like, barging into his room, right? Like, his little shack on the rooftop. I totally thought the way she was gonna realize that he was the crawler was that either A, he would just have his costume out in the open and she'd be like, Pop Step would ruin it. Or what I really thought was gonna happen, Pop Step would actually cover and, like, sneak out, and then Knuckle Duster would just barge in with a six-pack and fully dressed up. Surprisingly, none of that happened. In fact, she had no damn idea. Of course, you know, it was not super subtle that he's like, yeah, totally, I didn't do anything. I'm just beat up for no reason, but I got your laptop back. I'm glad she immediately was like, hey, like, I'm not an idiot. I appreciate when characters don't act idiotic just for the sake of plot convenience. And given how smart she seems to be, not just with how good she is clearly at school, like, her deduction skills are pretty on point. You didn't need a lie detector to be like, this guy might be something. Now, obviously, she's incredibly confused. Am I losing my touch? Was I just completely off the mark? The big test will be if she has any interest interacting with our boy going forward, because I think she does. Maybe I'm forcing my ideals on him, but, you know, Buddy was very clearly flustered by her, and honestly, I think she was kind of into him. I think she kind of liked that naive, innocent, I like the other two classmates, or senpais, whatever, they're passing by and they make the joke of how she's going for the younger students, the freshmen. I'm like, oh my god. Like, my boy's about to live out the ultimate fantasy and he's fumbling the bag. Like, it's just, he fumbled best girl. Is it over for good? Maybe not. But I don't have a lot of faith. Either way, was not expecting much from this episode. I was honestly expecting a pretty boring episode. The first few minutes, I was like, okay, it's not going to be anything crazy. It'll be a lot of lore dump, maybe, a little setup and stuff. And then they not only give me, like, this very fun episode where I'm like, my boy, you're very clearly not into pop step. And I appreciate that. You make a goddamn move. And let it be a lesson. Boy or girl, they're going out of their way to teach you stuff. They're probably into you. In this case, does it also kind of tie into she might have suspicions about things? Maybe, but it doesn't change the fact that you can have some fun along the way. But I gotta admit, never in a million years did I expect the joke of them misremembering his name to come into play and save his ass. That is just... I don't think there will be a better moment than that, and I think what's so great is, honestly, I think I got more enjoyment out of it than probably a lot of people, because if you're like me and you're reading the subtitles, you're like, oh shit, yeah. He's like, yeah, I ain't no crawler. And I'm like, damn, boy, where did you learn to lie like that? And then you double back and you're like, wait a second. She asked if he was the crueler. I'm less proud of you, my boy, because you didn't lie. You really aren't that. You're the crawler. But the fact that the thing that was frustrating him this whole time is the reason his ass didn't get exposed here. Now, even if he did get exposed, I don't think it would have been the end of the world. It would have been interesting for sure to see what would have happened. But either way, maybe it's good that his dick isn't doing the thinking in this situation. But, I shipped them. I hollered. I laughed. I loved all the art styles they showed, especially for, like, the comic paneling that they did at the start. So many different fun styles. Love that. You let me know what you thought. Everyone's probably going to be talking about the fact that a joke just saved his ass. But also, you agree with me. Best ship. Let me know. Leave a like if you enjoyed, though. Subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell. I do have those full live reactions over on my Patreon. And hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Sandra N, 0451 Jim, Mobita, Feather, The Lyrical G, Himi Meow Toga, and we also have Misto Dreamer. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care. You know, have a good one.